Mark Brewer is the chairman of the Michigan Democratic Party, up early after what was probably a late night, hobnobbing around with all the candidates. And how are you this morning?
Doing very well, Michael Patrick, and eager to move on to the general election.
How soon will you caucus with Mayor Bernero about strategy?
In a couple of hours. I spent a lot of time with him last night after I spent some time with Andy Dillon and his campaign, congratulating them on a great effort. They have nothing to be ashamed of. They ran a good race. Andy was very gracious in defeat last night. And I know we're going to unite now behind Virg Bernero, but I'll be meeting with the mayor and his team a little later this morning.
Tell me something that Andy Dillon said to you personally. What was his mood like? What was on his mind?
Well, I think, he basically really summed it up. He ran the kind of campaign that he wanted to run, talked about the kind of issues that he wanted to talk about. I think he feels very strongly. Andy is not somebody to wear his emotions on his sleeve, but you can tell he feels very strongly and passionately about fixing this state. Nobody can ever question his motivations. You may disagree with his methods, and people do, and that's legitimate, but never question Andy Dillon's belief in and dedication to this state. And that came through loud and clear last night.
Did you get a chance to visit with Carolyn Kilpatrick or Hanson Clark?
I did not. Okay. But again, kudos to her. Carolyn Kilpatrick has done a terrific job, first as a state legislator, now as a member of Congress. And she obviously, has been dragged down by the controversy surrounding her son, none of which she is responsible for or anything to do with. But I think that's what happened to her. Hanson Clark will be a terrific member of Congress. He's got a great record in the state legislature and in the state Senate, and we're looking forward to working with him.
I asked Rick Snyder a few minutes ago if he was nervous now going to the general election because the heat will be on. It's the NFL now, and they'll be looking under every nook and cranny at examining what they can find of his record. And I asked him if he was nervous about that, and he said, no, I've run a clean life and a clean business and all that sort of thing. Is that true?
Well, he should be very nervous about his record. I think we're going to have the classic confrontation now in the fall. The mayor of Lansing, who's done a tremendous job, Virg Bernero, bringing jobs and economic development to Lansing in these very difficult times, versus Rick Snyder, who made tens of millions of dollars, Michael Patrick, in the private sector, outsourcing American jobs to China. That's not the kind of person we need as governor. We need somebody who's got a demonstrated ability to create jobs in the United States, to bring foreign investment to Michigan, not somebody who made his fortune by sending jobs out of the country.
Okay, thank you very much. Have fun at the Unity Breakfast this morning. We'll talk again soon. Mark Brewer, the chairman of the Michigan Democratic Party. Big three automakers, 5% gains in July, apparently. George Vollman, the Automotive Insider, at theautomotiveinsider.com. Looks like the big winners were Hyundai and Nissan, and the big losers, Toyota and Honda.
That is correct, and as a matter of fact, most people don't remember, but the cash for clunkers came in at the very last week of July last year, which raised the expected level of automobile sales to far greater than what it really was, and then, of course, it continued on in August. So for any manufacturer to post a gain in the month of July this year, it's a real gain, and I think all the domestics did, and then basically the new product offerings really had some great gains. I think the Mustang was up 17%, the Jeep 19%, and so on. And the other honorable mention in the whole thing was the Buick Enclave. I mean, here is a vehicle that's been out for virtually 2 years, 3 years, going on 3 years, and it still has staying power because it keeps selling more than it did the previous year. So my hat's off to Buick. They're doing something right.
It's not a cheap car either.
No, it's Cadillac priced in a lot of respects when you get all the goodies on it, but it has staying power because of the way it looks, and they've done a real good job. And my point is that the economy is coming back. That's part of this good news. And the second piece is that the Lansing-built General Motors vehicles are still very, very strong, which is good for the economy here.
You mentioned the Mustang. Bloomberg News had a story about why a $30,000 Ford Mustang beats a $150,000 European sports car. How do they do that?
Well, and it's just they do it in the raw comparisons. And I remember back in the late 60s, early 70s, I used to do the same thing. And it didn't sway anybody that has a Ferrari to want to go out and trade it in on a Mustang. What they usually did was they would go out and buy one, and they'd have two. They'd have their Ferrari, and they'd have their Mustang or Camaro or whatever.
Their bumming around car.
That's right, their bumming around car.
What's the hottest car Ford's selling right now?
I think right now the Fusions are red hot. The Mustang obviously redesign's red hot, and the Escapes, Edges. I mean, basically their entire product line's doing real well.
VollmanFord.com or theautomotiveinsider.com. Television viewers, we'll see you tomorrow or on YouTube later today, anytime you want. MPS in the AM. Radio listeners, stay where you are. Verge Bernero will join us right after the news. I'm Michael Patrick Shields. When I throw pesos their way, adios and via con Dios.